Welcome students. Hi, my name is Amit Choudhary and this is a communication class. So today we'll be talking about interview skills, about descriptive section, and we need to apply creative skills to handle this section, and reading comprehension, the tricks of reading comprehension. So let's start with interview section, and there are three major zones in an interview for an interviewer to ask questions. The first zone is current affairs, the second is academic questions, and the third is HR questions, human resource questions, questions about your personality. Let's talk about current affairs. It's something which is very important and you need to understand the major incidences, right? So you need to go through maybe newspapers or magazines for the last 1 year or 6 months. That's something you need to do. Broadly, I would be talking about these issues, this section, because this section will help you in descriptive section also. So how to prepare yourself for current affairs section, I will be taking in descriptive portion of the video. So let's talk about academic questions. Academic questions will be confined to your degrees, your diplomas, your graduations. Now, if you are not very comfortable with the entire syllabus of your graduation or post-graduation, you can actually pick up 3-4 chapters, you can revise those chapters, you can get a hold of these chapters, and then you can propose to the interviewer that you actually research these chapters, and they might ask you questions on those chapters, but then you need to prepare those chapters deeply. So I will be focusing my section, my video on HR questions. HR is human resource, is about understanding your personality. So how to understand your personality, how to prepare a resume so that you can express yourself in an interview very concisely and very coherently. So this is a SWOT matrix. It stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Let's understand this matrix. So let's start with strengths. Whatever you know, you need to prepare this matrix to understand yourself. Strength is something which these are the traits which guide you in the life. These are the traits for which you are getting appreciations in your life. People like you for these traits. So think about your soft skills. Think about you might be a good negotiator, you might be a person who has good camaraderie and bonhomie with people, with you might be of a friendly gesture, you might be a person who is of analytical skills, you might be a person with reasoning aptitude, you could be a person who understands how to solve problems, you might be interested in team building, guiding people, mentoring people, negotiations, stuff like that. So this is your strength. So while collecting your strengths, you should not just open Google and just put up those passe words, those words which are very overused, like honesty and punctuality, because you don't mean probably anything when you say that you are honest or punctual, because these are the hygiene factors, these are the basic factors, basic requirements of any job. You cannot get into a job if you are not punctual, if you are not honest. A dishonest person cannot get a job. So don't talk about those simple things. Talk about something which is more matured, which is more relevant to you. Understand yourself. Are you do you know resource management? Do you always create new things out of some waste material? Do you have high learning curve? Do you learn things very rapidly? So use these words. I used a very interesting word in an interview, which is intrapreneurial skills. Intrapreneurial skills. Now what is this? So you must have heard about entrepreneurial, which is about uddhami, businessman who starts a new business. But intrapreneurial skill is about a person who cannot start a new business because he is not a businessman, but he wants to work in an organization and he wants to work with complete liberty, complete freedom, so that he can actually motivate the people of that organization and he can take the organization to the next level. So entrepreneur is a person who works in an organization with complete free will and dedication, as if he is working in his own enterprise. So this is about strength. You can put creative skills and stuff like that. You need to understand your weakness. Don't write these things in your resume. Don't mention these things in an interview until they ask you. But be aware about your weaknesses, and don't talk about those false weaknesses which are actually strengths. So don't say, I am too honest, sir. This is my weakness, and I can't deny anyone, or I cannot say no to anyone, or I rely on people very easily. These weaknesses are very immature weaknesses. These weaknesses are very deceptive weaknesses. These weaknesses are not something which are real. These weaknesses look like plastics. So talk about weaknesses which are real. Don't talk about those weaknesses which can interfere with the job. So if you are getting into a bank job, so you cannot say that I don't like to serve people, because that people won't accept. But you can talk about things like that probably my reasoning ability is not good, or you might talk about I'm a bit lazy, things which you can work on. My communication skill is not so good. Or you can talk about stuff like probably you are from a background which is not very supportive, or things like that which are not very intrusive to the job but which are real, and you should have a plan to encounter those weaknesses. Whenever you're talking about weakness, whenever they ask you about your weakness, you should give a counter plan to address those weaknesses. So you should say, if I'm lazy, I would say I don't wake up very early in the morning, so I generally schedule my entire day in a way, because I am a creative person. I like to write poems, so I wake up in the morning to write poems. So I fixed a schedule that only 7 a.m. I will write poems, so that encourages me to wake up. So you need to find a way to use your strength to overcome your weakness. So you have to control, you have to dominate in your life, and that's how you have to enhance your weakness, and you have to overcome your you have to enhance your strength, and you have to overcome your weakness. The third thing is opportunity. Opportunity is about something which you know. Opportunity is something which is over and above to your normal schedule, right? It's something which is like, you might be having a diploma in computers, or you might be having a background where your family people from your family have their own business set up, so you can join them, you can learn the nuances of business. So opportunity could be something which can come very apparent in the future, and that can help you, and you can actually grow by leaps and bounds. So that's something which is about opportunity. So and fourth is threat. Threat is about your dangers. Don't talk about threats, because that's not very important. You can't prepare for those threats. You need to improve your strength, and you need to control your weakness. So that's something you need to create for your interview session. That's the strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis, and you need to understand how to control your weakness and how to maximize your opportunity and strength. Apart from these questions, you need to understand that in an interview you need to offer yourself, and if you need to make yourself very clear to them, you have to understand yourself. And when you understand yourself, you have to create a log line. So I am introducing you to a term, log line. When I'm working with some of the advertising agencies, I understand that log line is something, it's a one crisp line which introduces you. So say James Bond, whenever he comes on the screen, he says, hey, I am Bond, James Bond, and I have the license to kill. So that entire presentation with a gun in his hand is a prelude, it's an introduction to James Bond. So whenever you are appearing in an interview, you need to prepare your log line. So your log line could be something like a line which has your strength, which has your opportunities, and a line which talks about your achievements. So a line could be, I can create a log line about myself, that a creative, I think I am a creative person, so I will write a creative person with entrepreneurial. I will use this word because entrepreneurial, because I really like this word, because this word represents me. I don't want to start my business, but I want to work in an enterprise and I want to make that enterprise grow with time. So a creative person with entrepreneurial spirit, right, with more than 9 years of experience. So see, I am preparing a log line. I am writing, I am a creative person with entrepreneurial spirit with more than 9 years of experience, and I wanted to work in the knowledge industry, in the knowledge transfer industry, in the teaching industry, in the training industry, and I want to change the society. So this is a log line, this is a career objective, this is a job profile which I have prepared for myself. This line should be very impactful, it should include all your strengths. Now this is about interview. Always remember that in an interview your questions should be slightly different. It should be deep. For example, I will give you my example. When I appeared in BIT Mishra's interview, they asked me a question: are you a hard worker? I said no. Then they asked me, are you a smart worker? I said no. Then they were confused. You are not a hard worker, you are not a smart worker, then you are a West. Then I replied, I am a person who works with love. So I always choose those projects which are really interesting. So I work with love, I work with conviction, I dedicate myself. I am not a hard worker, I am not a smart worker, I am a devoted worker. So see, this is a new way of saying things. So always keep on thinking about new ways of quotations will help you. So let's talk about, so this is a bit about interview skills, but I will be expecting more questions from your side. So put your questions on YouTube or wherever you find me, you are connected to WhatsApp groups and stuff. So message me. So tell me those questions which you want me to address in the next video about interview skills. But always prepare this SWOT matrix and always prepare this log line. You can send your log line to me and I can check it whether it's up to the mark, it's according to the industry standards or not. So let's talk about descriptive section. Descriptive section is about judging your creative skills. Are you creative? If you are creative, you can write an essay in a way which could be very impressive, or a letter in a way. But how to be creative? So let's understand the process to be creative. So how to write a descriptive sections? So in order to write a descriptive section, you should be ready with some of the facts and statistics. So always understand a descriptive section has these. This is the sequence of a descriptive section. So whenever you're writing an essay or something, you need to start with the background. You need to talk about the topic. You can call it introduction. You need to introduce the topic. It's also about background. It's about whatever happened in the past and the definition of that topic. And then you need to talk about the current status. You need to talk about today. You need to say what's happening now about that topic. If I ask you about demonetization or whatever, you need to talk about the background, you need to talk about the current status, about corona, about anything. Then you need to talk about your point of view. You need to talk about whether you are in the favor of the thing or you are in the against. It's not necessary you should be always in the favor or in the oppose. You can be somewhere in the middle. You can also put forward your points for supporting it and opposing it. Both things could be included in an essay, or you can take a neutral standpoint. You can just take a problem solver standpoint. You can always suggest solutions. So point of view, background, introduction, current status, and now point of view. Whenever you are giving your point of view, you should present some rationale, you should give some logic, you need to give some facts to support your point, whatever you are saying. And whenever you have given your facts, you need to talk about probable solutions, things that can be adopted in the future. And then after giving solutions, you can give a sort of summary of the entire thing. So these are the points which can be included in the descriptive section, which is also very it's common sense, but you need to understand there's these three sections. This section where you're giving background, this point where you're giving logic, and when you are giving a summary. These three sections are very important, and you need to embellish, if you need to improvise these three sections, you need to either give some quotations. So what are the quotations? Sayings by the great people. So you need to provide some quotations, or you need to talk about some facts, statistical facts, or you need to talk about some news. So prepare a notebook. So what I did, I prepared a fact book when I got when I appeared in my CAT examination. I got around 97 percentile in my CAT overall. So when I was preparing for interviews, I prepare a fact book. So whenever I was reading newspaper, I collected those facts, those quotations, those news in those newspapers which are really relevant to the topic. So I created topics like poverty, like health, like rural and urban India, male versus female, agriculture sector versus service sector, politics, corruption, environment, pollution, government policies, health, nutrition, sports. So I created these sections, and whenever I am reading a newspaper, I collected those facts according to these headings. So I was ready with around 50 facts. Whenever you are ready with some facts, you can use those facts in any of the essays. Say I give you an essay, say I give you a fact that according to report by United States, which is it's a by a report by United Nations. This is a some double dimensional poverty index. This says that the world in standard for determining the below poverty line is 150 rupees per day. You need to earn 150 rupees per day to be a person who can afford his food. It's not about health or education, it's about just food. You need to earn 150%. And according to this standard, in India currently there are around 12% people who are below poverty line. So say I have this data that according to international standards, according to the report by United Nations, 12% people are below poverty line in India. Now this is a data. If I give you any essay, you can apply this data in that essay. So you have to apply those data either at the background part, or maybe in the summary part, or maybe in the facts part. And you need to give some quotations also. Maybe Marcus, something said by Gandhi, something said by Churchill, something said by great people, Napoleon, those quotations. Those will actually improvise your essay. So say I have this data of 12%. So whenever I am talking about any topic, so say you give me a topic women empowerment, I would say ki it's very necessary to it's really necessary to empower women in a society, but we are only empowering females in the urban areas. We are not talking about rural areas. If you look at rural areas, according to international standards, 12% people are below the poverty line, and most of these people are belong to rural areas. So first we need to focus on rural areas. If you give me a topic on space exploration, I can talk about that. Before going to space, let's work on Earth and let's improve the conditions, the socio-economic conditions of our country. And in our country, according to a report, and I need to mention that report, I would say around 12% people in India are below poverty line. So you can understand that a same fact, a same data point can be used in many of the essays, and that will help you in improving your essay part. So this is a bit about descriptive. Obviously this is not so simple. We need to write many things. You can write essays and share across. And now I am talking about a bit of reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is a section which we really find difficult in an examination because we don't know how to read fast and still understand. So there are three ways suggested to us. The first way was to read the comprehension entirely and then attempt the question. But when we apply that approach, we invest a lot of time in understanding the passage, and when we go to answer the questions, already 10 or 15 minutes have elapsed and we don't get enough time to answer those questions. So probably reading the passage entirely, understanding it completely, and then approaching the question, this approach is not going to help us in the examination. So the second approach in reading comprehension that had been told to us was to go through the entire questions first and then remember the question and then approach the passage. But again, if you go through the question and if you haven't seen the passage, you can't remember those questions. When you go back to the passage, you find that you have completely forgot those questions and you can't answer a single question. So the third approach, which is usually told to student, is about remembering one question at a time, finding its answer and then solving it. But that's not the right approach, because there are only two, say there are 5 or 7 questions in the examination, there are only 2 questions which are very fact based, which you can actually find in the passage. Rest of those questions are more inference based questions. Those questions are about understanding the passage, those understanding true or false. So those inferencing based questions you cannot answer by finding in a passage. You need to understand the entire passage. So what's the real way out? So the real way out comprises 3 steps. So let's note down these 3 steps. Internationally, reading comprehension is solved in 3 steps. The first step, we call it scanning technique. The second step is about whenever you scan a passage, then you go to questions and then you collect keywords. And the third stage is about underline the passage. It's about underlining technique. So let's understand these 3 stages of reading comprehension. First, scan the passage. How to scan a passage? The way you scan a WhatsApp message, or the way you scan a book while you are standing on a bookshop. So you don't read the entire book. You just glance through the book. You don't read the entire WhatsApp message. You just glance through that message. The same way, the first step, you should glance over the entire thing. You should scan the entire thing, and then you need to only read the big words. Big words means you need to read noun, you need to read verbs. You need not to read smaller words. So when you focus your eyes on bigger words and you just scan a passage the way you scan a WhatsApp message, without going into deeper understanding of the passage, but just reading few words and getting an understanding of the entire idea, what's written in that passage. This scanning process, the scanning of the passage can help you in getting a bit of understanding of the passage. Once you scan a passage, then you should go to the questions. So first you have scanned the passage, you have seen a passage in a glance, and then you understood major points. You can understand whether the passage is about Mahatma Gandhi or Hitler, or it's Second World War, it's about Indian independence, or what's the crux of that passage. Then go to questions and read the important keywords. So if you find a date 1917, if you find a word Newton, if you find some names, remember those words, right? Then again come back to the passage in the third point and read the entire passage with underlining techniques. So underlining technique means that you will read the entire, this is something very important which helped me in scoring, in cracking my NET JRF examination and stuff like that. So read the entire passage in this underlining technique. So what's that technique? So whenever you are reading a line in a newspaper or in a reading comprehension, always use your finger and always scan through the line. Always use your finger to run below that word before reading it. So if I am reading this part, I will be running my finger below that word, something like this. So I have to drag my fingers. This is underlining technique. What's the importance of this underlining technique? Once you start doing this underlining stuff, it is like a yoga. It's like improving your reading skill by focusing on finger, and as fast as your finger is moving, your mind is getting stronger. You are understanding to read it with the speed of moving that finger. So one day will come that you will start moving your finger very fast, and the mind will start grasping the entire passage with the same speed. So always focus on words by using your finger or a pen and underline. Don't underline it really, but just do this gesture of underlining and keep on reading. This underlining technique will help you in improvising your speed. But when you are sitting in an online examination, you cannot actually underline with your finger. Then there will be a fourth step, which is skimming. Skimming I will be revealing in the next video, where will we be talking about online reading comprehension methods, where I will be talking about skimming method. So these are the three stages of reading comprehension. First, scan the passage, read important words, try to get the gist, that summary of the passage. Then go to the questions, understand the keywords, remember those keywords, come back to the passage again and read with underlining your finger. So use your finger to underline all the words and then keep on reading with that speed. So you have to always remember that you cannot stop your finger while reading. So when you are doing this stage, when you are underlining, you cannot stop your finger. So it has to go on. You cannot pick up your finger from the page. So it has to stick to the page, and you cannot stop anywhere. It cannot go back. So whenever you're reading a line, you cannot come back again to it. Because if you keep on reading the same line, you will waste a lot of time and it might not help in answering the question. So just read any sentence once. Always remember, it might be difficult in the beginning, but later on, if you don't stop anywhere, if you don't repeat anything, you just keep on reading, it will help you. Some students might be thinking that we will not understand in one go. That's fine. You might not understand in one go, but still it will improvise, and within 2 to 3 months you will be able to solve reading comprehension within the specific time which you want to achieve. So but this is underlining technique is about offline examination. In online examination, we need to practice the skimming technique. So start using these three stages, and soon I will be coming with a passage where I will be reading the passage in a way which I demonstrated here, and you will get a practical understanding of the concept. So these are the topics which I wanted to cover today, but this is something which I just touched these topics. We need to get deeper into these topics, but your feedback, your questions will help me in coming out with more stuff and more new ideas. So thank you. देखते रहिए. जय हिंद.